All right, welcome everybody to the Edmonton Real Estate and Investors Association. This presentation is being recorded, so be on your best behavior. Thanks for joining us. I will do a little bit of housekeeping to start. Obviously, when we're presenting and going through the presentation, we'd like everybody to be on mute. There's going to be some opportunities for yourself to unmute, ask some questions, add some comments. At that time, you're more than welcome to join us vocally as well. But until then, try to keep it muted. We find if there's multiple people unmuted, all of a sudden there's just some background noise, and we once in a while we hear a couple having a little spat in the background. So don't be that guy or gal. All right, so for those of you that are new to our monthly presentations, and they happen on the second Wednesday of every month here on Zoom, and at some point we will go back in person, but we do have a vision and a mission. Our vision, financial freedom through real estate and investing, is attainable for everyone. So that's what we envision and is our vision. As for a mission, it's to create a community of real estate investors and promote an environment that encourages learning, sharing opportunities, and building relationships. You can find us on Meetup, and you can also find us on Facebook.com. So Facebook.com/EREIA. Of course, which stands for, of course, like in the top here, Edmonton Real Estate Investors Association. We'll post things on meetings and when we have time, a little bit more. We are a group of volunteers that put this on, whether it be on Zoom or off of Zoom. And those volunteers are starting us with Sean Impey, one of our directors. We have Lana Chow, our secretary, Walter Rakers, who's our treasurer, Linda Hayes, who is my VP, and then myself. I have the pleasure of being the club's president and have been for the last 500 years, or maybe it's 5 years. Disclaimer. So no matter who we have as a presenter, and then this also goes for anything that anybody on the board says or anything that has a speaking role says, is that we think that you should always obtain professional advice for anything you've heard on here. There's going to be a couple segments within your time with us where viewers like yourself can participate and share any opportunities and services that might be of use to the group. It's important to obtain, some advice and do some due diligence on any investment opportunity, because you never know when someone's trying to sell you some, oceanfront property in Cleveland, Ohio. All right, so there's always new people in our groups. Right now, our group consists of, about 33, just shy of 3,400 people that are part of the group. Obviously, they don't come out to all our meetings, but they're in the communications that we send out, and different members of that larger group do from time to time hop in on our groups. Or our meetings, I should say. So if you're new to the Edmonton Real Estate Investor Association, we welcome you. If we were in person, I'd get you to stand up and we'd give you a round of applause, but you can't quite do that on Zoom, or at least not yet. So what can you expect tonight? So in a moment, we'll take action takers. We always like to hear the stories of people that over the last 30 days since our last Zoom, who's taken action, and we'll describe that action in moments. Then we will have our market update, which is made up of a little bit of a real estate update. What are we seeing out there statistically and on the front line? Talk about mortgage rates, and there's plenty to talk about that. And then some economic news, and there's always some interesting little tidbits from that. Then we'll take a little bit of a break, and then we'll hop into our main speaker, which most of you are here to catch. Because we're not nearly as exciting as Mel and Dave, the investor couple. So they're going to be talking about, how to buy properties with no money down and no joint venture partners. And they've done it over and over and over. Then we'll touch on deals and steals, another opportunity for people to pipe up and tell us, what they're looking for. Are they needing some capital? Are they, they may figure out some options before we get there. But if there's a property that they want to sell, then maybe share that, and there might be a buyer in the group. And then we'll end the evening off in breakout rooms. Basically, we split whoever's left in the meeting into multiple rooms, and as the evening goes on, we shrink the amount of rooms until there's only one room, and then everybody networks in those breakout rooms until the lights go out. So we will start with action takers. So if anybody has taken some action over the last 30 days and wants to share, maybe about an offer they made, or some properties they've looked at, maybe about sitting down with some joint venture opportunities. Here's some other ideas. Maybe you just got pre-approved and you're just excited, and you want to tell us about what you're looking for. So unmic or unmute and tell us about any action you've taken, and don't be shy.
I can share one.
Sure.
So everyone knows I have property in Belize, I think, because I talk about it a lot on the island of San Pedro and Ambergris Key. But on my last trip with my boyfriend, John, we actually just bought another piece of land on the mainland in Placencia, where we're planning to build a house along with 2 rental units. So more international real estate for us.
Beautiful. Congrats.
Thank you.
Anybody else out there?
I'll share one. I don't know if it's good action or bad action, but we just we had to foreclose on a builder that wasn't performing and was behind on his mortgage payments. So we took over 2 skinny homes over. It's in Inglewood. It's right a block or 2 away from Westmount Mall. So they were 99% complete, so we're doing the last 1%, and we're going to have some skinnies on the market here probably by the end of the month. So if you're looking for residents or know somebody who's looking for skinnies in the Inglewood area, track me down. We always got a better price if close your ears, Ivan. Always got a better price if there's no realtor involved.
Skinny homes, 1%. That's gotta hurt. That builder. It's too bad you didn't get a pre-sale done.
Yeah, we could spend about 3 hours talking about the story behind this one, if these properties, but we don't have that time. So.
Yeah, there's always some good stories. I have a client that's looking to snap up a lots there or in Queen Mary Park for some skinnies. So I've been on the hunt. If anybody has any property that's suitable for a skinny, then we'll take action. Anybody else? I find it funny that in the last few months, there's been less people wanting to share about any activity when it's been the busiest months of activity in the market.
Well, Gert's not on here, so that's why we don't get him.
Yeah, you'd be telling us about something. You'd be telling us about his Bitcoin. Well, maybe this will be a short segment. I don't think we've ever had only a couple stories. Hopefully that's not indicative of where the market's going. I don't think so, but. All right. Well, we'll move on to did someone Someone want to share something, or are they just unmuted?
Hi guys, myself Bhavin. I'm working on land development deals. So anybody wants to either invest or I want to partner up, I'm willing to share all the details. So one of them is in a Beaumont, and yeah.
All right. Share. Keep some some details ready for the tail end of the meeting where we kind of share some deals. All right, so we'll move on to the next segment of our meeting here, and Linda will kick things off. You may have the power of no. Linda, I'll let you kick off this segment with your news segment.
Perfect. All right, so today I will talk a little bit about COVID, very little compared to last meetings because there's not all that much new, which is nice. There's not very many restrictions left. There is a lot of travel with pent-up demand. So those of us who have Airbnbs, that's probably helping out a little bit. And of course, if you haven't heard already, there's no test to get into Canada as of April 1st required if people are vaccinated. So this is definitely helping, people with rentals or just people that are wanting to leave the country and come back. It saves you money. So if you're thinking of traveling, that might be a good thing as well. Now on the next slide is the Canada budget highlights. So I'm only going to talk about things that are, talking about housing or things that might affect real estate investors. So in terms of housing supply, I put a little graph in here from the Globe and Mail that shows the housing supply in Canada compared to some other countries. So they're talking about housing supply being very weak, particularly in Alberta, Manitoba, and Ontario. That was a Bank of Nova Scotia report that said that. So they have announced $10 billion in new spending. $4 billion is going to a housing accelerator fund and $1.5 billion for affordable housing. So depending on people that are investing in that type of housing, that could be helpful for you. And then on the next slide, there's some other things about property purchases. So there is now going to be a 2-year ban on home purchases by foreigners. There's some exemptions for this if somebody is actually living here on a work permit, things like that. It's a bit different. Another thing that can have a little bit of impact over time is that there is a new tax-free savings account for first-time home buyers. So it won't have maybe an immediate impact on people wanting to buy, but it could in the future. So there's a contribution limit of $40,000 and the max is $8,000 per year. And the difference between a regular tax-free savings account is that it is tax deductible contributions. So this is planned to start in 2023. And the reason a lot of these things are happening is because housing demand, and you can kind of see the graph there as well from the Globe and Mail, just showing that the demand is going up quite a bit. So the tax-free savings account, one thing I sometimes do is when I have a property for sale where a tenant has expressed interest in buying, where I'm thinking maybe I want to sell in the future, this is something you can maybe reach out to your tenants on and say, hey, if you're thinking of buying, this might be in the future, this might be a way you can look at saving a little bit of money and getting a tax break. Okay, so on the next slide, this is another budget thing. If you have a small business, right now, the tax rate for small business corporations is 9%. And if you're not a small business, it's actually 15%. And the way they define the size of the business is by something they call taxable capital. And right now, that taxable capital limit is $15 million. And I don't know how many of us in the room would have that much capital in our company, but if you do, the good news is that there is a proposal for that small business rate to be available up to 50 million rather than 15 million. So it basically just gives medium-sized businesses more of an opportunity for that lower tax rate. So that can help people with corporations. And then on the next slide, this is the biggest thing that could affect rental people that are doing flips. So if you don't already know this, and I've talked to many people that seem to flip houses and they don't know anything about the tax rules. So my boyfriend is a general contractor and he's helping a person with a flip right now. And so talking about how the taxes work, if you're flipping houses, that's taxed as business income, not capital gains. So if I sell one of my rental properties, I only pay tax on the capital gain, which is 50%, and I only pay tax on 50% of that. So if I was doing a flip though, and I made 100,000, I'd be paying tax on all of that gain. So I buy the property, for example, for 200, I sell it for 300, presuming my purchase price included all my rental work and everything else, I'd be paying tax on that whole $100,000. Whereas if it was a rental property, I'd only be paying tax on half of that. Now, what's happening a lot of times is that people aren't doing the taxes properly. So they're saying that, you know, it's a rental property. They put tenants in it a couple months. They maybe move into it themselves and claim principal residence exemption. And you can hear people saying all different things. I heard someone say, hey, it's 6 months. You have to live in a house 6 months to get principal residence exemption, which there's never really been a defined rule on how long. But if you do this all the time, CRA will look at you. So CRA has been cracking down a lot on this, sending people letters that have claimed the principal residence exemption. And they have a new deeming rule in the budget saying effective January 1st, 2023, profits from the sale of residential property, including a rental, if you own it less than 12 months, it's deemed to be business income. So this is a huge change. If you buy a property, you sell it within 12 months, you're paying tax on 100% of the gain. So this is a huge difference for people that are trying to avoid the actual rules saying if you flip properties, it's business income. We'll just hold them a little while. So make sure that you I guess, pay attention to this carefully, talk to your accountant about how to structure flips. I know some people that have separate corporations, they do their flips in versus their BRRRRs and things like that. So this is something where it's not necessarily a change for some people, but it can be for other people. Then a few topics on economics. So you can see that the inflation rate continues to be crazy high. So in Canada right now, the monthly is 6.2 and Alberta is 6.0. So that's the February data because it only came out March 16th. And in Alberta, we're now paying, what it means is we're paying 5.5 on a yearly basis more in February this year compared to what we paid in February last year. So I've talked before about the fact that that doesn't even include all of the increases we might have, but that still shows a very high number compared to what we've had in the past. And the highest increases are in energy and transportation. So then unemployment in Alberta, it edged up slightly to 6.5 from 6.8, so not much change there. And in Edmonton, it is 7.1 in March compared to February at 6.9, Calgary 7.7, where it was 8 in February. So there's a little chart there showing Alberta compared to Canada from the ATB news thing, the OWL. Of course, we have Todd Hirsch speaking sometimes in the group, and he has this OWL newsletter. So if you're looking for economics, you might want to follow him as well. And so other articles, I don't have any this time, but I put a QR code here for my YouTube list where I'm putting the meeting. So in the past, I only put the main presentation, but as you noticed, if you're at the beginning, I'm trying to record the whole thing now so that it will be on YouTube probably tomorrow in a separate playlist for the meetings. And then I also have my real estate investing playlist there too. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Linda.
No problem.
Always some great information from Linda. She's our resident accountant, and when it comes to real estate investment, there's lots of things to know to keep CRA at bay. And so make sure you watch the recording and take some notes if you didn't today. So the following is some kind of a real estate update. It's a video I prepared for another group that I have a cameo on, and so it just kind of tells you where we're at. I mean, unless you're under a rock, you'll know that the real estate market is quite bullish right now, and definitely a seller's market. But there's some interesting things going on in the market that you'll see in the video here. So let me just cue it up. All right, it's been a busy year so far. We're going to take a look at how March ended and where that leaves us in April when it comes to the Edmonton real estate market. And thanks to our friends at Both for some part of this. So total residential sales in the greater Edmonton area
when we look at March of this year. There was an increase of 45.5% over February and an increase over 34.7% from March of last year, which is a little more indicative of things. New listings increased on both by nearly 8% year over year and 47.7% from February of last year. For March, single-family home unit sales are up 21.2% from March 2021 and 37.7% from February of last year at 1920. Condo unit sales increased by 67.1% from March of 2021 and we're up 62% from last month from February. Duplex row house unit sales were up 54.2% year over year, and an increase of 45% month over month. Single family homes averaged 503,711, so 10% year over year, and an increase of 2% from the month prior. And for condos, average value 245. It's an increase of 6.7% year over year and 8% compared to February of 2022. Duplexes increased 11.8% from March of 2021, selling at nearly 390, almost a 4% increase from February 2022. The Greater Edmonton area market continues to surprise us as we enter into what's normally the start of the busy season. We're ahead of schedule. Although we are seeing slightly lower increases for average sale prices across all categories, there has been a huge increase in the number of listings hitting the market, as well as a number of sales in the month of March. Single family homes averaged about 27 days on the market, a 15-day decrease from February 2022. And condos averaged 51 days on the market, and that was a decrease of 10 days, month over month. While duplexes averaged 29 days on the market, a 13-day decrease compared to last month. So overall, all residential listings averaged about 34 days on the market, decreasing by 8 days year over year, and down 13 days as compared to February of this year. So let's give you a more visual look, though.
So let's dive in. What's happening in Edmonton? So this chart looks at the Greater Edmonton area and all residential listings and the number of new listings that have come to market each month for the last 4.5 years. The bright pink line here shows you what's happening in 2022. So you can see here in March, the most recent month, the number of new listings are up 28% versus the average of the 4 previous Marches. So more new listings than there would typically be for this time of year. And then on the other side of the equation, demand, or the number of sales, is incredibly strong. So sales are up more than double what they would typically be in March. So phenomenally strong demand right now. There's a huge number of people out there buying homes. And as you can see, relatively, there's not as many people bringing new listings to markets, not as many people coming to sell their homes proportionately compared to just how much demand there is now. And that's leading total inventory, or the total number of homes for sale, to be relatively going down. So you can see here, typically in March, in the last 4 Marches, to be far more homes for sale than there currently are. So inventory is down about 30%, not as many homes for sale, makes it more difficult for buyers, makes it very much a seller's market. Final thing I'm going to show you here is months of supply. So this is taking a look at, given the amount of inventory in the Greater Edmonton area and how fast things are currently selling, how many months would it take to sell through all of the inventory that's currently available? And you can see here months of supply at an all-time low, down about 1.8 months. So this is incredibly low. What does that mean? It means it's a great time to be a seller You don't have a lot of competition. There's not as many other homes for sale, and homes are selling incredibly quickly. So great news for sellers and a tougher time to be a buyer in the Edmonton market right now. What does all this mean for home prices? Well, this chart shows you what's happened in the last 17 years to home prices in Edmonton across all different types and property types. Most recently, you can see this from this sharp upward trend in prices the last couple of months. So prices are up 4.5% month over month, which is a big increase over the previous month, and up 9.4% year over year. So prices going back up again after quite a long period of downward pressure on prices. So great news for homeowners in the Edmonton area.
All right. So if you're thinking about selling a property, then homevaluecheck.ca is a tool for investors to see what their property is worth. But like I said, unless you're under a rock, the market has been brisk. Property's been selling fast in most segments and in most areas of the city. There's exceptions. That's why the days on market isn't one. There's still a lot of glut condos out there, and there is always going to be people that are trying to sell a property for much more than it's worth, and people just pass it by. And there's always going to be some properties that are just don't appeal to the mass market, but overall continues to be strong. Sean is going to be speaking on a segment that may calm things. We'll see. But maybe that'll be a good segue for Sean to talk about what's some news that came out very recently.
Thanks, Ivan. So anybody who's been watching the news today or actually been listening for the last couple of weeks, there was the threat of the Bank of Canada raising their rate 0.5 point, and today that threat became real. So as of 10 a.m. Eastern this morning, the Bank of Canada rate jumped up from 0.5% to 1%. That's first time in 20 some years they've done a 50 basis points increase. Normally they do 25 points. So, and you can read all about it online about inflationary pressure and the war in Ukraine and supply chain issues, and some of it's Greek to me. I don't know why some of those things happen, but talk about some more increases as well. So variable rates, which are linked to the Bank of Canada rate, are still quite a bit lower. You can still get a variable rate at prime minus 1 or a little over 1, so that's about 2.2% based on the new prime rate, which went up to 3.2. Fixed rates, probably about the best you can get for an owner-occupied property for a 5-year rate is in that 3.6 range, 3.5. You might see something advertised on the internet a little bit lower for fixed rates, but generally those are specialty products with restrictions and stuff like that. So just a side note, it's always important to talk to your broker about the features of your mortgage on top of just the rate. You may find out that you got a great rate or a great price, but it's the same as you get a great price in a car and you get in there and find out there's no electrical windows and you got to roll them all down by hand. So you got to watch out for restrictive clauses and due on sale clauses in your mortgage, and what the prepayment privileges are if you plan to pay your mortgage down fairly quickly and you don't want to have any penalties incurred. So that's the big news in the mortgage world for us. I get asked every single day, should I go variable or should I go fixed? And I said, yeah, you should. So it's really a bit of a chess game. We don't know where rates are going. If they rise and fall down again and you're locked into a fixed, you don't get any breaks. If you're in a variable and the rates go up and then they go down again, if there's a recession or something in a year or two, then you get the advantage if the variable rates go down. So it's really your tolerance for risk and maybe how easy you want to get out of your mortgage. If you've got a rental property, said I might hold this for 2 or 3 years and see what happens. If you're in a fixed rate, you got a penalty. If you're in a variable rate, you got 3 months interest, which can be, maybe a few $1,000s. Fixed could be $10,000 or $15,000. Especially if you lock into a fix and rates drop again, then you're really going to hit with a penalty. So most of the big banks have bigger penalties than what we call the monoline lenders, like MCAP, RMG, RFA, those type of lenders, First National. So ask your broker how penalties are calculated too, makes a big difference. So if the rates are equal, start looking at the rest of the features to see what might be best for you. So something I mentioned a couple of times previously, there's 2 types of rates or 2 types of mortgages out there where the interest rate changes with Bank of Canada. One's called an adjustable rate mortgage, which a lot of people call a variable. It's not really a variable. Adjustable rate means your payment changes when the interest rate changes. So if you're paying $1,000 today, the interest rate goes up 1/4 point. You got a $100,000 mortgage, you're paying an extra $12 or $13 a month on your mortgage. So it goes up about $12 to $13 per 100,000 for every 1/4 point. So if you have a variable rate mortgage, that means that your payment is static. And what happens when the rates adjust is that you pay more of that payment. So your $1,000 payment you might be making could be $500 interest, $500 principal. Rates go up. Now maybe you're paying $5 1/4 for your interest and $475 towards your principal. So your amortization actually spreads out. It's a pretty good product if you've got rental properties because it doesn't dig into your cash flow when you're not feeding an alligator, so to speak. If you're getting to negative numbers, you got tight. So it's one option to talk about if you've got some rental properties getting into a true variable mortgage and not what a lot of lenders and banks call variable. It is actually adjustable. So check that out. Banks are cracking down quite a bit these days. I've seen more, I'll call them weird conditions and requests from banks that didn't used to see in the past. They're being a little more diligent on borrowers. They're asking some strange questions. They Google everybody. So you got some dirt in your background, they'll find it probably. So you can't, not tell them the truth. They'll find out about maybe properties that you didn't disclose to your broker, don't show up in your credit bureau. They'll find out, and more likely than not, they'll just kick you to the curb instead of, just be honest up front and let them know everything you got as far as properties and debts and everything else, and let your broker help you find a way to finance it instead of getting rejected. So what else? So I was going to say that the qualification rate is still 5.25%, but with rates getting up into that 3.75, 4%, we have to qualify at the contract rate plus 2%. So if we're going to a lender who's got a 4% fixed rate mortgage, we got to use 6% instead of using 5.25. So for borrowers that are right on that cusp of being able to qualify, that may put them over the edge. So one thing we do is we request a variable rate mortgage because the payment or the interest rates are considerably less than 3.25%. So we can use that 5.25%. And if you're nervous and variable, you can wait a month or 2 or 3 and just go to the bank and lock into a fix later and kind of get around the qualification rate a little bit like that. So always find a knowledgeable broker who is also a real estate investor, can give you some tips and tricks and help you out. So I think that's all I got, Ivan.
Oh, well, thanks, Sean. The odd questions is for the first time now, I've been in business for 16 years and I've done, hundreds upon hundreds of deals. And the first time ever, this week, or I guess on the weekend, I had a buyer, and it was a new mortgage broker to me. It was a friend of hers, but she sent me a request for, and then we were doing it during the inspection. They asked for a addendum to the deal, stating that the storage shed and the hot tub added no value to the deal. So, I guess it was a situation where I guess they don't want us to be buying, a house for a certain amount and then tacking on an extra 15,000 for a hot tub and a shed. And so it's not really selling for that amount. But yeah, it was first time. And it wasn't the first place I've sold that had a hot tub and a storage shed, but it's the first time that I got that request. And then on that same deal, the listing agent on that property put one wrong digit in the postal code. And so we had to amend everything for that particular bank with the correct postal code, just with the one, instead of the postal code ended in a 3 and we had a 2. So those are some curious things that, that I don't know if they're just spending extra time on every file, but just kind of some curious things.
Just on your comment about the hot tub and the shed, I had one recently where there was the sellers had a piano they were going to leave behind. I don't think they wanted, it was probably not worth the cost of moving it. And they got the same question, does the piano add any value? And it was on the listing that there was a piano involved there, and it turns out the piano was actually gone. So the appraiser didn't have to make any comment that it doesn't add any value to the property. So, and they're really finicky. So you got to be very careful. I find thing on listings sometimes, especially on like duplexes and stuff like that, sometimes there'll only be one address on the listing. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 Street, and there's also 1, 2, 3, 6 10 Street is the other half of the duplex on one title. And then when it comes to get the mortgage, and now you got these 2 addresses and stuff. So you really got to read your listings as a broker. And if you're writing an offer, also make sure that whoever the names are on the offer are the same as the people going on the mortgage. Because if they're not, there's going to be issues with the lender. So you'll need to, the realtor will have to write up an amendment and change that. So just make sure you put the right names on there from day one. If you do an assignment, lenders like to see an amendment changing the names of the buyers on the title instead of just the assignment paperwork. Just cleaner from their end, from audit purposes and everything. So talk to your broker if you're not sure.
That makes sense. What is what's the chatter in the money business as far as any further rate increases?
Well, it depends which website you're on and who you read. So Bank of Canada indicated there'd be some more raises before the end of 2022. So that's the latest chatter. 6 months or a year ago, they said there'd be no increases until the summer of 2022. Maybe one more, but that's gone ahead of the game. So I don't know. I don't have an economics degree, and I don't know what drives all these things sometimes. And it's they're going up. I mean, I get emails literally 2 or 3 a week from some lenders saying rates are going up at midnight. Get your deals in today. Well, we don't always have our deals sitting on the desk ready to go, right? So yeah.
No, I guess anybody that has a rate hold for the next 90 days or 180 days or whatever. They're
120 max for a rate hold. Yeah. So we have people that rate holds are doing good, but make sure you get in. Had a client who had a rate hold that expired sometime towards the end of March, and they didn't take any action. So now instead of 2.6, they're looking at 3.6 or 3.8.
So the deal has to be active by the end of that, by the end date, expiry date of that rate hold?
Yeah, you gotta, some do 90, most do 120-day rate holds. None of them are, they're not, people think they get a pre-approval or a pre-qualification there. I mean, generally all this is a rate hold. So lenders don't underwrite deals these days to see if somebody gets approved for a mortgage. That's the brokers do that generally. So give people an idea, and there's no guarantee that you're actually going to, I take that back. There will be a guarantee coming up that the property is going to qualify as well, because there could be an issue with the property. You're buying something, maybe didn't know it used to be a grow up back in the day, but it's on a lender's blacklist or something like that. Or if it's a condo, maybe there's issues with the condo docs and lenders won't lend on it for a number of reasons. But there is a product coming out here as early as next week that I'm going to have access to, where you can get guaranteed funding dollar amount on a specific property, specific address. So you can write your offer knowing that you're going to be able to get X number of dollars on that particular property. So it would aid you if you wanted to write no financing conditions on this property. You know you got your money coming. Anybody wants to know more about that? Call your favorite broker. There
we go. It happens. I think there's a phone number right on the screen. Take note. Give Sean a call.
Yeah. SeanMP.com.
SeanMP.com. Just Google Sean MP and you'll see all kinds of things that happen down in Mexico. And all right. So 2-minute break. We'll take a little break, and then we'll let the fireworks go, and we'll have our exciting guest speaker today, Mel and Dave, the investor couple, and they'll share all kinds of knowledge on how you buy properties with no money down and no joint venture. And sometimes you'll listen to some people that maybe have some ideas, but have they done it? These two have done it, and they keep doing it, and now they coach people on how to do it as well. So go top up your drinks, go hit the bathroom, and in 2 minutes we'll pass the torch over here to Mel and Dave, and they can control for the next hour on their creative strategies and actionable tips and techniques. Don't forget to come back.
Absolutely.
All right.
There we go.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
All right.
Great. Okay, let's see. Share.
Awesome. Do we have
this one? Let us know if that.
There we go.
It is. There we go.
You guys can see it?
We sure can.
Okay.
We're not overly techy, but
we're not
boom.
overly techy, and we're pretty informal. So thank you so much for having us here this evening. We have a presentation. We'll be talking about how to buy properties using none of your own money and without joint venture partners. So I don't know if you want us to kind of just head right into it.
Yeah, I mean, I introduced you a little bit prior. Many of us, if you spend any time online, whether it's it's YouTube or Instagram, it's hard not to run into a video without these guys on it. It's like they follow you around, and that's part of the technology, and that's also part of some great content that gets pushed out and shared. And but they're more than that. They're speakers, and they present to lots of groups. But they roll up their shoulders, and they've done the real estate investing, and they'll tell us all about, I assume, what they've done, but they walk the walk. So tell us about yourself, guys.
Yes, awesome. And thank you. And I kind of have that as part of the presentation. So we're going to go through that and talk about it. That we're going to talk about a little bit about our journey, a little bit of a couple of roadblocks, a little bit of mindset as well, because we can crunch numbers for an hours here this evening, but if you don't have the right mindset, you're just not going to get to the results. And of course, we're going to get to this whole creative financing, no joint venture partners. We're analyzing a lot of deals. I think 5 deals this evening as well.
Yes.
Near the end. So
we'll be
kind of
showing
go
you
through
examples,
that.
right, with creative financing.
And of course, Q&A at the end as well. So if you have any questions, we can keep them at the end and kind of go through any questions that you may have as well. So let's get started here. Let's get right into it. There we go. Okay. So who are we? Well, we are Investor Mel and Dave. You might have seen us on social media. If you're not following us yet, go to YouTube right now, because we typically release a new video every single week. So if you subscribe and you hit the bell to be notified, you'll get a new video typically once a week about Canadian real estate investing and many of our strategies as well, and all of that. So Dave and I, we are full-time real estate investors. We're well known for our book that we wrote, Real Estate Investing Secrets. It became a #1 bestseller. And we buy properties, all of our properties. We have over 220 properties in Canada and the US and Costa Rica and Mexico. And we bought them using none of our own money and no joint venture partners. Yeah, so that's just kind of, anyway, if you're wondering who we are, that's a little bit about us. We have the one book together. Mel has one, the only woman in the room with other women. And actually, we might have another one. Yes. You hear it first here. Can't release too much yet, yes. Something else is in the works, yes. But we'll kind of dive in. We'll talk a little bit. If you want to go to the next one, Mel. So in 2020, during the pandemic, right, when everything was starting and everyone was, well, obviously you guys all know, we've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, right? We still kept pushing along and chugging along. So we still bought 119 units in 2020, right? No joint venture partners, none of our own money. And those are the pictures. That's our 50-plex, the one you see us in front of right there. And obviously the other buildings that we purchased to total 119. So just to show you again, even during the times, I don't even like saying crisis or pandemic. No, but you know what I mean, COVID, right? Or whatever you want to call it. But essentially, if you do study real estate over a long period of time, it always goes up. So, and that's why we didn't hesitate to continue and still continuing to purchase properties as well in 2021. So last year we bought a place in Florida, condo, villa in Costa Rica as well. We bought our $1 million office, 2 commercial flips and an 8-plex as well. So it's definitely, there's always deals to be found. So when people say there's no deals out there, then don't believe them, because there are, and I think Alberta, I know that most of you are perhaps from Alberta. I encourage our students to definitely buy there. There's so much potential in Alberta. Just the fact that you're so landlord friendly there is and I don't think, sometimes I feel that people who are in that situation don't realize how important that can be, or how much it makes an impact on your numbers. You don't realize what you have until you go 5-6 months without rent from one tenant, and if you do that times 20 tenants, it's accumulative. So, well, absolutely, Alberta, in my opinion, is the last, well, not the last, but the most landlord friendly province, right? New Brunswick is starting to clamp down. It was neck and neck, but you guys are in a great spot. Hey, the picture of the office didn't load. Top left. I'm like, why is there a blank? Anyway, doesn't matter. It was delayed. I've got ESPN or whatever, or ESP, whatever. Isn't that a joke in a movie, ESPN? But anyway, yeah, so that's Alberta's a great spot. So good for you guys. So yeah, 2022, obviously this year, that's us. We purchased 3 places in Costa Rica without visiting. Now I know you're thinking, well, Dave, you're there. Yes, that was after we actually purchased them. And that's just to show you, whether it's Costa Rica, whether it's another province, whether it's another country, whether, insert here, it does not matter. You do not physically need to go to the place to actually purchase it, to analyze it, to underwrite it, to do your due diligence. If you go, that's cool. And if you can make a vacation out of it. But again, you can do this all over the place without having to actually visit it.
Anyway, 2-bedroom condo, 3-bedroom house, casa is what they call it there. And then we have a pre-construction. But again, solely owned, no joint venture partners. You're gonna hear us say that over and over tonight. You'll be sick of it by the end of it, but it's kind of our MO. Or yeah. So obviously, we still look the same, especially me.
Well, Dave used to be a full-time firefighter, and I was a full-time coordinator at our college. Now, we weren't born investors, and if maybe you're not a born investor as well, that's okay. Many of us, and many people who are very successful in the field, often we don't come, it wasn't given to us. We learned, we invested in mentors, we made mistakes, and we never gave up, right? We pushed forward. So anyone can really do this.
Yeah. So, okay. So like Mel said earlier, it's all about mindset, and we'll talk about a few things. Everyone wants to go, boom, let's talk numbers, let's talk deals, let's talk analyzing. However, let's start with that mindset part. Okay. So I want you to do a little bit of self-reflection. I promise we're going to go to the numbers at some point. Okay. But a little bit of self-reflection first. And I want you to ask you this. Okay. Is this you? Are you serious, right, about becoming a real estate professional?
Yeah. Do you want to buy properties without using any of your own money?
Do you want to build a secure future for yourself and your family? I'm pretty sure everyone is saying yes to these, but again, it's just a little bit of self-reflection.
Yes, and if you want to take action now and be ready to start investing in 2022, then you have to get through this roadblock that I find a lot of people get to, and oh, well, it's not the good time, and they put it off and they put it off, and before we know it, we're 23 and 2024 and 2025 and still haven't taken the action that we really wanted to take.
Okay, so a couple of things that we'll talk about and learn today. So the most crucial mindset to become a successful real estate investor.
Yes, we'll talk about the blueprint path from 0 to hundreds of units, 119 of which were during the crisis, based on some of the examples that you can copy and paste as well.
We'll go over the creative financing strategies, right? Again, we'll show you the deals, we'll analyze them with you.
Yes, our favorite part is the Q&A. We always love Q&A, so we're looking forward to answering your questions. And in the end, we'll show you how to work with us if that's something that you're looking for at this time in your journey.
Okay, more questions to ask yourself. Again, self-reflection. Do you have properties right now? Okay, and make sure, again, even if you're taking notes in your mind, actually go through that and answer these in your mind.
And could you afford, given your situation right now, to buy one property a month right now?
And it is doable. Remember 2017, we bought 12 properties in 12 months. So anything is doable. And can you do it? Are you lined up to do that right now? Do you know where to find the good deals?
And do you even know how to determine if it's a good deal?
And then do you know how to get financing and our favorite, creative financing, right?
Now, if you answer no to any of these questions, what, Mel, Dave, I don't have, who has that kind of money sitting in the bank account to go buy
one property a month?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Hey, don't worry, we've been there definitely as well. And this is what it's all about. It's about unblocking a little bit of the mindset that I can't do this, or only these people, or won't work for me, or I'm a single mom, or I'm a single dad, or I'm too young, or I'm too old, and really pushing through those kind of barriers and attaching some numbers to all of these strategies as well.
Okay, and what's been stopping you so far? And I'm not saying you have to put it in the chat. You can if you want. I always love interaction, but what's stopping you so far? So when we mentioned all those things earlier, what is stopping you from doing a deal? What is stopping you from finding the good deals? What is stopping you from finding financing or creative financing? Because again, if you're going to want to succeed, you're going to have to identify some of the roadblocks, some of the barriers that you have, because if you don't identify, then how are you supposed to overcome them? Yeah.
And often it's things like, well, it's the fear of not having enough money, the fear of making mistakes, the fear of not knowing how to do it, the fear of missing out in America, the fear that nobody's going to lend me money. We hear it every single day. So identifying what's stopping you so you can kind of push through it.
And we'll show you someone next. Their fear, they thought only rich people could do this. Only millionaires could do this.
Now they are a couple from Alberta. And
we may have picked them because they're from Alberta.
Some of you might have, if you've been following Dave and I, you might have seen that I actually interviewed Camila on my Women of Action show. And I interviewed her because she bought 50 apartments. And when I actually, in less than 2 years joining our program, she's an immigrant from Jamaica. But when I interviewed her, she's like, oh no, I'm over 100 now. I'm like, what? So this is an example that anybody can do this. And I remember speaking with her and she thought, She said, I thought it was for the rich. I thought this is something only the rich can do. But as soon as she was able to wrap her mind and start using the strategies, boom, 100 units in less than 2 years. And now she's looking at early retirement. Maybe there's somebody in the room that knows Camila and John here.
She's a nurse.
She's a nurse, yeah.
But that's incredible, right? Immigrants from Jamaica, 2 years later, boom, 6-digit units.
Yeah.
And again, no joint venture partners, right?
Yeah.
All OPM. And again, there's nothing wrong with joint venture partners if you want to do them. Just know that there is another way as well.
Yeah, and I'll just show you another one here. Again, because it's not just Dave and I doing this. We feature somebody, I think, for like 85 weeks on our Facebook page, one of our students that have been doing this. So these strategies are definitely doable. Arnie and Tess, they joined in 2021, and they purchased 3 properties in 3 months, which again, for them, this was
They were
something
machines.
they're like,
within
why-
3 weeks, you had a deal under contract.
Yeah.
And I think they're from the Philippines. Yeah. Just to show you again, not just us doing it, anyone can do this, right? Now, this is very important. We call this the REI, the real estate investing triangle. Anyway, from my old firefighting
No,
days,
and
it
this
reminds me of
changed
the
my-
fire
well, then-
tetrahedron. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Blah, boring.
This triangle changed my life. Like once I realized that I need all 3 pillars, it completely changed my life. And I remember that I continue to think about that every time I want to get to the next level in my business and growth. So it's knowledge, it's resources and action. So you need the knowledge, you need to know what to do, how to do it. You need the right people around you. This is obviously a great community to connect with and the right people, investor focused accountants, investor focused lawyer, investor focused realtors. You need all those people that should be part of your team. And of course, you must be willing to take the action. Nobody's going to do it on your behalf.
Now, this we kind of touched on as well, the goals, but again, now that you have, the triangle, what are you doing for 2022? What's your 3-year out goal, 2025? What's your 8-year out, 10-year out, your 25-year out? So just to have those goals again, so you can get closer to achieving them.
Yeah. Now, trading time for money. So if you feel, and maybe this is where you're at, many people that I speak with as investors, we often feel, and I felt that way sometimes. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm self-reflecting, trading my time for money, working all the time. I used to work 3 jobs. Dave worked, I think, 3 or 4 jobs at once. You're a firefighter and a janitor.
Teacher's aide, janitor. They're going doing something else.
Teacher's aide,
Anyway.
and doing all those things while trying to build their portfolio, because coming up with 20% down over and over and over again is really, really difficult, of course, as you know. And I was working all the time, and we were both working all the time, trading our time for money, and we thought, there has to be an easier way. And some of you may be familiar with this.
I'm pretty sure most of you are.
Most of you, I'm sure, have probably read this book. And if you haven't yet, you must. And if you have already, and it's been a while, read it again, because you'll pick up different tips, little nuggets sometimes when you read it again, because maybe you just weren't quite ready for that. But this book changed our life. And it was really, it didn't show us how to do it, but it was the mindset about it.
Exactly. It doesn't show you how. A couple of tidbits. Rule number 1, the rich don't work for money. And then debt is good, right? Good debt is good if you understand how to use it. This is what opened up our mind. And that was right before we did the 12 and 12 in 2017. But basically, so once we had the mindset, we focused our time on learning, right? No longer working extra job and extra shifts. It was on learning, right? That knowledge and resource part of the real estate investing triangle. And then once we started focusing on that's what really helped us.
Yeah, well, we realized that we were doing it all wrong. We were trading our time for money. We weren't getting further ahead. And I remember Dave telling me, when you walked to the mortgage brokers and somebody went and gave you a bunch of, or showed 3 properties had purchased in a weekend. And we thought, wow, like I want to do this as well. So we got to work, we studied. And then the next year we were able to buy 12 properties in 12 months. Using none of our own money and no joint venture partners. And I want to explain here, I just want to pause here for a second. When you're looking at all the beautiful properties here.
I love looking at these.
They weren't necessarily all the nicest, but we are investors and wanted to find some great properties that are safe for a tenant and that we could increase its value. But when we were buying these properties, the no joint venture partners, why that was important to us is because you keep 100% of the cash flow, 100% of the equity, 100% of the appreciation, and 100% of the decision making as well. And we have 3 kids, so we can pass that on to our children as well.
And now 3 of those we refinance with CMHC. Sorry, I'm just looking at that. I just like looking at the buildings. It's like down memory lane. Now this, people will say, how come you guys became mentors? you bought a bunch of buildings. Well, it literally happened to us, right? And as you can see, it's a pretty dramatic picture. We're on the way to a real estate conference in 2018, and boom, this literally happened to us and changed our lives forever. And when we kind of came out from the fog in the days, this is when we decided, hey, we've got something here that works. Our kids don't even know how we're doing this. We could have passed away and not even passed anything on to them. That's when we decided to write the book. That's when we decided to start helping people change their lives, because nothing special about us. Anyone can do it. We're not rocket scientists, right? We just have made a lot of mistakes, but have experience and
yeah, no,
people.
exactly. People always ask, why do you do this? Why do you not just, stop? And again, we never planned on being mentors. It was after a life-changing event. And maybe you've had some life-changing events as well, or maybe you've had a moment, a trigger in your life, right? Maybe you grew up a little poor, maybe you had a sick child, or maybe you went through a divorce, or those moments in life that you realize that I need to do something different. Then take that and fuel yourself with that energy to really take the action that you want to take.
Okay, so again, like we said, no joint venture partners, other people's money. You're gonna hear it a bunch of times. So what's different the way we do it? Something like that's how we do it as well. I'm not really articulating that the best way I could, but this is how we do it, right? And in multifamily homes, I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, they're fully owned. And essentially we want to
This is live, right?
Yeah, it's not YouTube, Dave. We can't crop this part out. Yeah.
Crop this section out.
No, and we're looking for instant cash flow. So people ask us all the time, do you cash flow from day one? Yes. I mean, especially when you're getting started, you want to cash flow from day one if you're going to be using creative financing. And yes, there are still deals out there. And yes, many of them are there in Alberta, because I see them, because I'm looking. So these deals are everywhere. You just need to know how to find them and identify them and all of that as well. Now, you can be an investor with a consumer mindset. And this is really important because, this happens all the time where, and Dave, do you want to speak on the mindset a little bit?
Well, I'm just thinking, and I just want to use an Albert Einstein quote, and probably should have had it here so we don't butcher it. But he said that you can't solve a problem with the same mindset that created it, right? And which is so true, because if you're going in the same mindset that created, how are you going to come out with a different solution? So that's what I mean. If you want to be an investor, don't go into it with that consumer mindset. And we'll touch on this when we start talking about deals, because I know we'll get some questions as well about that.
Yeah. Now, what about the timing? Is this the right time? I know that we did a picture or analysis of the market. Is now a right time to buy?
Well, I'm just thinking, even today, not the Fed, Bank of Canada just announced we went up by 0.5 basis points. So this is very timely. Is now the right time? People are starting to get spooked. Everyone's calling their mortgage broker. What's the stress test at, variable versus fixed, 5.25 versus 6, like all these things, right? I know you guys know this because you're savvy investors. It's always the right time to buy real estate. If you buy the right deals, again, and if you're going to be a buy and hold investor and ride the wave for the next, 15, 20, 30 years, right? So in our opinion, right, everyone can do what they want, but in our opinion, it's always the right time to buy real estate. It's not timing the market, it's time in the market.
Yeah, and that's why we showed you the first few slides at the beginning that's showing that we're not just saying, hey, that's what we are actively buying. We've been buying actively for years. We're still actively buying, and we're going to continue to buy as well. Now let's get right into this whole owner financing and all the good stuff that you, I know, yes,
that's what you guys want.
But I wanted to break that a little bit. And if you're already past the mindset stuff, then good for you. But hopefully maybe a few of you needed to hear a couple of those tips, because again, 80% of success is mindset. 20% is this stuff. So let's get into this stuff as well. So owner financing, I love owner financing. And I want to say that I've been on both ends. I've purchased many properties with owner financing, and I'm currently holding financing to strangers. And we'll explain here why. I'm holding money, people I've never met. I don't even know their names. It's a corp, who purchased these properties, and I do it because it benefits me. So again, I want you to have that mindset that people do it because it benefits them. So what is owner financing? Owner financing is when the owner holds part of the mortgage on your behalf. So it's also known as vendor take back or VTB. It's also known as seller financing. And this can be done anywhere, and you'll see that on the deals. Again, I purchased, we're in Northern Ontario, where we have had a lot of snow here throughout the winter, and we negotiated a deal in Costa Rica, none of our own money. So it was owner financing was the main source of funding that we used. So again, these strategies can be done. So first mortgage is where the owner would be holding the first mortgage. So in that case, you're not going to a financial institution. They would be in first place. The second mortgage, this is the one we probably use the most of, is where if they have, let's say 20%, you need that 20% down towards it to put down as the down payment. Well, you don't have to use your own money. You can actually use somebody else's, the owner's money, for that 20% down or 25% down, and that can be negotiated with the owner. And we've also done some 100% financing deals where, again, this is the owner. In this case, the owner has to have the property completely paid out in order to do this, but where he held 100% financing for us.
And it does happen. We've had it 2, maybe 3 times with 100% financing. It does happen. It is a little bit more rare, obviously, but why would an owner hold financing for you, right? There's a lot of different reasons. Obviously, the ones that we've had are succession planning. We've had a lot of widows, their spouse passes away. They were never into this whole real estate thing. They talk to their accountant. It's going to be a tax burden. So we actually help them they get their assets sold. The headache goes away, succession planning. They're helping themselves tax wise. And now they're going to get a check, not from the tenants, but from us every single month, right? Selling price, or the selling price. I'm just thinking more and more right now, as people are going to have harder times to, more difficult time to qualify. If sellers are also going to want their selling price, they might be willing to hold financing, right? As the financing becomes stricter and they start tightening up that belt, that might be an option where, hey, maybe the price that you were asking, we can't get financing for it. Because I know in Alberta, I was talking to mortgage brokers, and I know that banks are doing lower loan to values, and this is all over the place. But again, I'm just speaking specifically to you guys. So that might be something where, hey, if you hold financing for me, and I know we'll work with every institution, you're not going to go to the big 5 and then have a second mortgage behind that. That's not even a question. But the selling price can be a factor for them as well, right? Make it a win-win. And capital gains, right? And people will say, well, Dave, it doesn't work here. It doesn't work in Edmonton. It doesn't work in Calgary. That might work over in Ontario where you are. CRA does not. How do I say it? CRA, there's not a clause that says this works in Ontario and not, it's Canada Revenue Agency. It doesn't go, this works in a hot market or this works in a secondary market. Seller financing is seller financing. Holding a mortgage is holding a mortgage. They can spread it, I call it spreading the love, but if they hold financing for you, they can now spread their capital gains for the portion that they're holding for up to 5 years, at 20% of what they're holding per year without getting too much into it. So they can help themselves capital gains wise withholding financing. That's why they do it, right? Obviously they have to like the deal and everything, but it's not because you put on a pretty smile and it's because it's benefiting them as well. Now, this is doable everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, this is doable everywhere. You can do that. And that goes for all the different strategies that we're going to be talking about this evening. So yes, in Canada, yes, into the US, yes, in Costa Rica or Mexico or Dominican Republic or Bahamas and all these different areas as well. And that's the thing, as soon as you realize that wherever you want to invest, that you can invest and you have that mindset, then it's a numbers game. And looking at a lot of deals is when people say, well, how would you buy 12 properties in 12 months? Well, I looked at a lot of deals that year and I found the best one that made financial sense.
All right. So private lending. So this is where, let's say the seller said, no, hey, I need this money for my next deal. I need this money to put my kids through university, college, whatever it is. This is when the seller says no. So there's other avenues as well. Private lending. This is where someone can have, they've never owned it or never will own it, right? So the first one, secured funds. So our RRSPs, obviously we're Canadian here, RRSPs, TFSAs, LIRA, locked in a retirement account. You can lend those out in the form of mortgages. So for example, Mel used to work at the college, our local college. I worked at the fire department. So we've both cashed in our pensions, sorry, not cashed in. We've both put our pensions now into LIRA, locked in retirement accounts. And we're actually lending out our pensions now in the form of mortgages, again, practicing what we're preaching. And we're also getting mortgages from other people who have those secured funds, promissory note, contractual agreements. People have HELOCs. People have money sitting around. They might refinance their house and have money sitting around. And you, as a savvy real estate investor, can put that money to work for them. Not everyone wants to buy buildings like us, right? But they want to make points on their money. Well, you can borrow that in the form of a promissory note or a contractual agreement. And you'll see in the deals coming up, you might want to fund your renovation, fund a flip, right? You might need $50K to renovate a place. Well, you can borrow through a promissory note and renovate, or you can use it for your closing costs or down payment. And then mortgages. If someone has cash and they want that security, they can put well, typically a second charge mortgage, but they can still do a first charge mortgage where they have that cash and it's actually secured in the form of a lien, right? A mortgage on the property. So again, there's different options if people aren't actually the seller or have owned or never owned the property. So different private lending examples.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you, we're going to start showing some different deals because I'm sure in the room, there's likely different levels of experiences. We kept it very, very basic. So the more advanced investors are going to say, how come you're not counting the rent coming in, renovations, all that kind of stuff? This is more for the concept behind it. Okay. So this is not how I crunch my numbers. Of course, it's just a mindset because some people, and I know when I got started, I'm like, well, what do you mean first mortgage, or what do you mean this? So it's really, really basic. Again,
it's like the 40,000 foot level, just to show you the creative financing.
Yeah, and during the Q&A, we can definitely talk a little bit more because I'm sure you'll have some more specific questions and we're happy to answer them during the Q&A, but just kind of have that mindset going in. It's just for the concept of it, and I'll kind of explain as I go. So let's get started with the first one here. And again, this is all relative. So if you're thinking a 7-plex for $439, I never pay that much, or oh my gosh, like where do we find these deals? Again, it's just a concept, it's all relative on all of that. So purchase price for the 7-plex was $439,000. Now the first mortgage was with a mortgage broker. So if you're thinking, I went to a bank before, I talked to them about owner financing, for example, or creative financing or OPM, I've been following you and I tried going to my bank and it didn't work. You're right, they don't do creative financing. So if that's where you're going and people are telling you no, it's not doable. If you went to a mortgage broker and they said, I'm not doing this, you're just not using the right person. 100% it's doable. So in this case, first mortgage, $329,000. Now in this case, we spoke with the owner and he agreed because of the benefits that we explained earlier to hold financing for us. So he actually held $109,000 on our behalf. Now, this property was underperforming in the sense that the rents were already low. I knew that as soon as I put it inside my matrix, I knew that I could get a lift fairly easily. It did need a little bit of TLC inside, but it also wasn't $150,000 of renovations that I was looking at. It was paint and countertop and the more basic things that I could either use promissory note or the money from the rent coming in. So that's why I didn't include that in here. So we got, fast forward about 2 years, we got a reappraised, year and a half, 2 years. It was fairly quick on this one. We got a new appraisal of $790,000. Now, same thing. If you're thinking that I know somebody who's an appraiser, I'm going to get him to or her to do it. It's not the way it works when you're actually doing it. Quite often, financial institutions can determine who they're sending. Again, you want everything to be ethical and professional and follow the rules and regulations. So new appraisal, $790,000. So the lift, what do I mean by that? The lift is essentially the forced appreciation. So it's the difference between the purchase price of the 440 and the new appraisal. So we literally lifted the value of the property. How did we do that? I didn't put that much money into it. I kind of mentioned a little bit with renovations, but whatever, even if it's 20, 25,000, it just wasn't enough to make a big difference. It made a significant difference because it just increased the value. The rents were able to increase market value, all those kind of things as well. So we were able to get a new first mortgage. So when you get a new first mortgage, when you do that, you naturally have to pay out everybody that you owe money to. So I paid out the initial first mortgage. I paid out the second mortgage, which was the lender, the owner of this property. So I paid him back and we were left with a profit of $231,000. Now, because it's no joint venture partners, and we already explained the benefits of that, that means we get to keep that. If we would have had a JV on this one, for example, and again, there's different splits. Sometimes it's 50-50 or 40-60, different things that are laid out. We got to keep all of that.
What's half? That'd be $116,000.
Yeah, so it's a significant amount, right? As you can see. So that's why solely owning, that's why we personally love it. Now, because it's a refinance, there's no tax on that as well. So that's a nice thing about being a buy and hold investor. When you sell, it's different. And we do sell, so, and I'm not against selling. We do sell as well. That's kind of part of growing as an investor. Once in a while, if it's the right time, absolutely sell, take that money, put it to work again. So we've done numerous, so many transactions throughout the year. But in this one, we still own this one. So yeah, so we buy and hold type of thing. So.
And just to kind of reiterate, yeah, so tax-free refinance. Now, a couple of things. I know if some of you are doing math, the first mortgage of 671, it's 85% loan to value. This one is a CMHC loan mortgage, right? With an A lender. So if you're doing the math and you're wondering what the heck, it's because it was CMHC. The other thing too, infinite return on investment. Now think about this, no money into the asset. Yes, a little bit of money here that gets recaptured by the cash flow. Again, this is the 40,000 foot level. Infinite return on investment. I want you guys to get hooked on it like I am. When you have no money into an asset and the asset continues to give you cash flow every single month, that's infinite return on investment. Nothing beats infinite. Okay, so I just want you guys to, when I started thinking about that initially, it blew my mind. I wanted to blow your mind as well. So start thinking about infinite. Now let's dive into the next deal. Now this is a little bit of story time here. This kind of the first deal.
Dave loves story time.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first deal kind of bleeds into the second deal. And what I mean by this is, and this is why you have to do win-win situations, because typically if a seller has one, they probably have more than one. So about the first deal, everything was going well. The gentleman was a teacher and he was going to be retiring. Now, first deal, sold it to us, didn't say a word, 6 months, we make our payments, everything's good. And he says, you guys looking for more buildings? Obviously, right? And then he basically says, I've got another one, which turns out to be this building. Now, what happened is with the money from the first deal, from the transaction, from the sale, right, of the first deal, he took those funds, completely paid off this asset here. So now he actually held 100% first place mortgage for us. And why did he do that? Because if he would have received a cent from this asset, right, it would have been in the same year as selling the other one, and it would have pushed him up the tax bracket, and he would have paid it through the nostrils. Okay, so it does work, the 100% financing. So let's run through this. Purchase price, 312, first mortgage, 312, right? Not lying to you. Now, what did we do? We did, excuse me, we did a few low-hanging fruit renovations. So that front porch, it was nasty. We did that. The shutters, I don't know if you can see around the windows, they were brown. We painted them white. Inside, the common areas were rough. We made it nicer. Tenants started to leave. We upped the rents. Minor renovations, right? Flooring, paint, maybe a countertop, a vanity here and there, but nothing earth shattering. You know, we done major flips, drug dealer houses where we got to blow out the walls, and yes, but this isn't the one, right? These are
the neighborhood kind of got better as well, right?
Agreed.
If you kind of looked around, you know, the drug houses became less, you know, so those kind of things, of course, as well, being able to identify when things are improving as well. So we ensured to do that too.
Yes. So repositioning, renovating, repositioning the asset, stabilizing it, right? So increasing the income as much as possible, decreasing the expenses, as much as possible. And then, got a tickle in my throat, my apologies. So now what happens after a while, right? The appraisal comes back in higher, $580,000, because we were able to reposition the asset. So now the lift, right? The difference from where the asset was and how much we forced it in appreciation is the difference was 200, well, just shy of 268, not bad, right? And then we got a new first charge mortgage from, this one is CMHC financed as well. I like saying that because some people think, oh, CMHC, if you have any creative financing, they won't touch you. They don't do creative financing, but they will pay out all the other stuff, right? In which they did. We had 2 mortgages here. So CMHC, when they did a first charge, sorry, they don't do the mortgage. I always say that. The A lender that lent us the money, and CMHC insures the mortgage. So all the creative financing was paid out, right? And then CMHC, oh my gosh, the A lender is now holding the new first mortgage that CMHC insures. You guys know what I mean, but I always get caught saying it, and then I know I get it. Well, CMHC doesn't do mortgages. Yes, my bad. That's what I'm trying to say. So new first mortgage, 493, 85% loan to value, profit, $180,000, right? Half of that, if we had to give up to JV, would be 90, cash free, refinance money, infinite return on investment. All right, next one.
There we go.
I like being boom, boom, boom.
Yes,
Anyway.
and we'll start going through a little bit more. I think you're likely getting the concept here. This one is essentially the same, so I'll go through it very quick because we still have two more here as well. So this one is a 17 plex. The purchase price was 1.5. So I just want to show that this can be done with anything, any size. It can be a single dwelling, or it could be a 17 plex, or I've done it with 50 plexes as well. So purchase price 1.5. Same thing. First mortgage was mortgage institutions. The second one was the owner, a different owner in this case, who actually same thing. Once again, he held property after we paid him out. He held financing for us again. So don't underestimate the value of treating your lenders extremely well. Being, having that communication with them, paying them back on time and all that kind of stuff, because I've seen it so many times that they're willing to lend. Side note, anyhow. So appraisal, we got a new appraisal for this one for 1.9. So our lift is 415. So again, the lift is the difference between the purchase price, what we purchased it for, and the new value of it. And we were able to force depreciation, of course, got in first new mortgage. We paid out everyone, so we pay out the first and the second originally, and we were left with a profit of 124,000. Now, the neat thing about this property, inside, it was really well done inside.
Yeah,
New
he
cabinets,
had like the
new
Mennonites
kitchen.
build these oak cabinets. Like the guy really cared about the building, right?
So again, this property, I didn't have to go and put in 100K in it because it was already beautiful in the inside. A couple units, of course, when the tenants left, they needed painting, those kind of bit of TLC, but nothing, I didn't have to go down to the studs or anything like that. I have done that on some properties, and I didn't include those in this one, just kind of keep it simple for today. But yeah, so left with a profit 124,000 because we solely own. Again, we get to keep that, and it's a tax-free transaction. So again, it's infinite return on investment. And this is where I don't want just 10% or 15% anymore, or 20%, right? This is where, because you're not using your own money, and think about it this way, there's no way when I was working, many hours, that I could have come up with the 20% down. There's just no way that I had that kind of money, and Dave and I, but by leveraging other people's money, this is how we're able to do that. And we did 12 in a year and 119 apartments in 3 months, 1 year, and we're still continuing to grow, because by leveraging, all of a sudden you can just grow a lot faster. And most of you, I'm sure, have read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, but this is where putting other people's money to work. When you do it wisely and strategically, do you have to have systems and strategies in place? Absolutely. Will every deal make sense? Absolutely not. I get owner finance deals on my desk all the time that I'll do my numbers on, and it's like, oh, pass, because I don't know. It just doesn't make sense, right? I know that the deal just isn't sustainable in the long term. So, Dave, do you want to do the next one?
Yes, the next deal. Okay, I love this one. Oh my God, I'm so sorry about the tickle in my throat. Okay, the next one, this one, again, think of this. This is going to blow your mind again. When this first happened, I was like, what? No bank, no financial institution, completely off the radar. Okay, cool, right? Now listen to this. So this asset was listed on MLS, right? For anyone to buy. It was on the market for, I think, 7 or 9 months. No one scooped it up. When we first saw it, we ran the numbers, didn't like the deal, moved on, right? And then once we came back to it,
we passed on it at first because
it
doesn't make sense.
Okay. And then once we came back, we said, okay, this thing isn't moving. What's wrong with it? Right. Let's look at the option for seller financing. So we showed the seller, we ran the numbers, and we're like, no one's able to finance this because the numbers don't make sense. And we asked the seller what happened. He's like, yeah, 2 or 3 people had accepted offers and financing never came through. And it's like, yeah, the deal doesn't make sense, right? So what we ended up doing, he had this paid off. So he held a first mortgage. Now this is going to be cool. Again, no banks here in the beginning. So the seller held a first mortgage, right? So the purchase price is 250. So he held 80% loan to value. So 200,000. And this is a 5-plex. So if some of you are thinking, well, how come they went up to 80% loan to value? I thought 75 was the max or so on 5 units and over. Because there's no bank, it's the seller. He can do what he wants. He can hold 100%, right? So that's the beauty of it. So he held 80% loan to value, first mortgage of $200,000. And second mortgage of $50,000 was, I won't say her name, but let's call her, she used her RRSPs. So let's call her Mrs. RRSP. She lent.
You're so creative.
So she lent us a second mortgage, right? With her RRSPs for $50,000 for the down payment. So 100% finance deal, no financial institution. We go in there, we do our thing. Again, the low hanging fruit stuff. reduce the expenses, increase the income, do some minor renovations. As tenants move out, obviously increase the rents. Now, a year or two go by, I forget exactly on this one, new appraised value, $500,000. So the lift, pretty easy math on this one, to be honest with you. So $250,000, we basically doubled the asset in value. And now the new first mortgage that we got from this, I think it was a credit union, for $375,000, right? Which paid out the full 250, paid out the seller, paid out Mrs. RSPs, and left us with a refinance of $125,000. So this one is pretty cool. Excuse me, because I absolutely love it that you don't have to go to financial institutions to buy buildings. You can use OPM and creative financing to do it. And yeah, and since then, Mrs. RSP has done other deals. Actually, she helped us with our cottage. We bought our cottage 100% financed as well, creative financing. So just to show you can do it with any type of different asset that you want. Now the next one, okay, this one's a little different. And I know there'll be questions. So yeah, in the chat, definitely. And when we kind of dive in, feel free to ask questions. So Costa Rica, this is one of our most recent.
This is us 2 weeks ago. I want to go back where it's
March. This is March 19th.
Yeah, it's not even 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So that was us. So again, but we didn't see this place before we bought it,
No.
right? So purchase price, $325,000 USD. Again, just to give you an example, the first mortgage that the seller was holding, right? Basically, they told us come up with roughly $100,000. I think 98, anyway, roughly $100,000, and we'll hold the remaining. So they held $227,000, or they still are holding it. Now, here's the deal. We're doing 6% interest only, balloon payments. So if you, and again, I don't want to be too technical, balloon payments is typically like a balloon, nothing, and then big at the end. So there's going to be absolutely no monthly payments for these 2 years. So we're going to cash flow high for 2 years, right? Because we don't have to pay a mortgage. So 6% interest only, balloon payment. Now let's break it down. So 6% interest only on $227,000 is $13,600 a year. So we're not paying yearly, we pay it at the end. Everything's going to be stacked to the end. So the total for that for the 2 years will be $27,000. So at the end of the 2 years, we will owe them the $227,000 plus the $27K in interest, which comes up to what, $254? Mm-hmm. Now, listen to this. So just again, you're all about building your exit strategies. And this one, we're going to have to sell the asset because Costa Rica, unless you go to Scotiabank, but then you have to buy it personally and they only allow you up to 5, which we don't want to do. So we're going to have to sell this asset to exit it down the road. But we've purchased multiple other ones and I won't bore you with other things like that. But think about this. The exit is already built in. We bought it for $325. In this same complex, some of the condos are listed at $575. And we just purchased this in, was it Jan or Feb of this year? So at the end of it, we'll cash flow high for those 2 years, USD money, right? And then at the end of it, maybe at the 1.5 year mark, we'll list it, we'll sell it, we'll pay back this lender, we'll be left with a chunk of money. We'll pay back both lenders, we'll be left with a chunk of money, and then we'll be able to go buy other condo, whether it's Costa Rica or Mexico or wherever, right? So again, and I'm just showing you this quickly to show you the power of being able to use creative financing, seller financing, and OPM anywhere with different strategies. Again, this isn't the highly leveraged bank debt like we like, but it's still another play to do it. And then with a different exit strategy.
Exactly. And as you grow your portfolio, of course, like anything else, it's like this snowball effect. So at first, of course, it's a little bit slower, but then once you grow your portfolio and you have more and more properties, it just becomes easier. And whether we sell this one, or maybe we'll take one of our other properties and use that money and do, I mean, we can get really creative in how we want to do different things. But of course, as an investor, it's always nice. And that's often the goal of investors. So that's why we thought we'd include this one in, even if many of us may want to stay local, and that's fantastic. Sometimes we do want to have a place in various areas in the world that we have to go visit them, right? To check up on them. And of course, we have a lot of benefits when we do that as well.
Okay, so we're talking about creative financing. We're talking about other people's money. We're talking about zero down and no joint venture partners. Now, the one thing,
most important slide of the evening,
yes,
right here.
Before you leave tonight, if you learned one thing, if everything else is just a blur and you walk away, hey, what did Mel and Dave say again? Exit the deal before you enter. That is the most important thing. What does that mean? Just like I talked about Costa Rica, we're going to have to sell it at some point to recoup those funds. and then go buy other ones, right? The other seller financing deals, we had to know that the valuation, whether it's forced appreciation or market appreciation, that the asset would go up so that we would be able to refinance and pay them back or sell. Like, you have to have that plan to pay people back. Otherwise, that's how people get jammed up. That's how people get in trouble. They don't exit the deal before they enter. All they see is they get the blinders on, they see seller financing and OPM, they go into it, and now a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road, that's when they get jammed up.
And the reality is, not every deal, and I mentioned that before, but again, I'm mentioning it again because it's so important. Not every deal will make sense. Not every deal that somebody says, I'm willing to hold financing, or it's happened to me where I have a lender saying, Mel, I'm ready to lend you money. Let's do this again. Because maybe I paid them out, or they're a new investor and they're keen and they want to get going. And if I don't have the right deal, I need to explain that to them and make them wait maybe a month or until it's done, or until I find the perfect deal. So I want to make sure that I can always pay them back, of course.
Okay, and like we mentioned earlier, if we're going to jump into the, well, it's up to you guys. Hopefully the Q&A soon, that's my favorite part. But just quickly, people, I'm sure you're wondering, and we had mentioned it earlier, what do you need to do? Let's go over it very quickly. And then again, favorite part, Q&A, we'll dive right into it.
Yeah, and again, although we do creative financing and that's what we love, you should have some kind of backup money as well. So if you're coming in with $0 right now, you just got out of a financial situation, you do want to make sure, although you're not going to use any of your own money, you should have some kind of backup money in case a tenant doesn't pay or need to, call a plumber or those kind of things. So you do want to make sure that you have some liquid funds, but at least you don't have to come up with that 20% down. So we're going to go through this very quickly here. So essentially, most of you already know we have an A to Z mentoring program, and we cover everything from finding deals to doing the creative financing, managing properties, business structure. That's so important to make sure we include those tax strategies and all of that.
Yes. Like I said, the A to Z mentoring program, the live mentorship, daily access to us. We answer your questions within 24 hours. In the group. Yeah, we have a weekly live session. So we'll go live for an entire hour, and we have access to our high level network as well. And we also have unlimited amount of questions. We answer them personally. So you don't get paired off with somebody else. We're the ones to answer your questions. So if you do want to contact us and you're not following us yet, here's how to do it. And then we can go into more details here. You can book a call with one of our mentorship specialists, and they'll be able to tell you all about that and make sure it's a good fit and answer your questions about what we offer. I'm ready to invest.com is the website. And as a thank you to you have to put the W's, anyway, it's a techie thing, www.IamReadyToInvest.
Yes.
Without that, it doesn't go for some reason. I don't understand it, but it doesn't go.
Yes, and we don't do this often, but as a thank you for having us as part of this community, for the first 5 people who joined the Action family, make sure to let them know that you are here this evening or that you watched the replay. And we'll also be giving you value of over $1,000 in value as well. So again, I'm not going to go too much into that. Thank you so much. I'm ready for some questions if you are, and thank you so much.
Awesome, guys. There was a question by John Girk. It says, how do you overcome the negative of older properties not acceptable to some lenders?
That, and John, how do I say this? Some of them have that. I've seen it mostly with insurance. I've seen insurance companies, if it's anything past a certain age, then they want to see that all the electrical and wiring and plumbing and all that has been upgraded. Otherwise, the insurance can be much more. As for lenders, to be honest with you, we've had some. Now, we have buildings that are over 100 years old. We have one that's 136, I think, is our oldest building. It's never been that oldest, building in North Bay. Yeah. So that being said, again, it's never been such an earth-shattering deal breaker for us, to be honest with you. If it was, I would just change lenders, but it's never been a deal breaker for us where they go, the building's too old. They might ask for different upgrades. Again, it's mostly been the insurance companies that go, hey, anything past this year, I forget the year now, because this was a big thing with some of our buildings. Anything past this year, we want to see all the upgraded electrical, all the upgraded plumbing. What else am I looking for? Plumbing, electrical, and I forget what else. And if they didn't, then they would send us off to another insurance. Hopefully that answers your question. It's never been a deal breaker for us, knock on wood. And if it is, I would say, find another lender that isn't biased against old buildings.
All right. Eric Robinson, how were you able to utilize your LIRA to finance your purchases?
How are you able to utilize your LIRA? Not ours. So everything has to be arm's length, right, with secured funds. I wish, I'm sure we all wish we could use our RSPs, our TFSAs. So it has to be arm's length. So that being said, like our pensions, our LIRA, locked in retirement accounts, we're lending to other people in the form of mortgages. And then we're borrowing other people's secured funds to fund our deals. So yeah, no, so if I didn't make that clear, Eric, my apologies, but no, we don't use our own. It has to be arm's length. Yeah, so I wish we could use our own. There are some exceptions. You can use your own if it's going to be owner occupied and 4 units and under and a certain amount of purchase price, but it's not a long-term play. It's a kind of one and done type thing. Anyway, in my experience, hopefully that answers your question, Eric.
Scott asks, what tactics do you use to encourage seller financing? How do you typically structure your deals?
They like the mortgages.
Yeah, and great question. What tax did you encourage seller
They don't
financing?
want to actually
Honestly-
hold the property. They aren't property managers.
Oh,
Yeah.
Andrew, I think you're unmuted there.
Here, there you go. Yes, how to encourage seller financing. Honestly, I make it a win-win. Again, it's important that they win as part of the deal. And again, it kind of comes back to that 80% mindset. And I did not always have that mindset. Melanie wanted the best deal, and I wanted Melanie and Dave, and we wanted us to win. But as you grow as an investor, you're going to quickly realize that's not the way to do business, and that's not going to pay off in the long run. So you want to make sure that they're going to be making money. You want to make sure that you take care of their property. And if you have a couple properties, of course, you want to build your own reputation around that. You want to make sure as well that you question them, ask them, what are they looking for? What's their comfort level? Some people don't want to get paid right away. And why would they not want to get paid anything? From a tax perspective, don't pay me anything for a year. Don't pay me right year, because this year is going to, it's going to take me right to the next tax bracket and all those kind of things. So have a conversation, find out what they're comfortable with, give them a fair interest. There's so many different things. And just know this, don't go in it just because you did it one way with one person, or your buddy did, or you heard this person do it on a podcast this certain way. It doesn't matter. Have a conversation, try to make it a win-win, listen to what they're looking for. Some may, and if you need to talk to make the deal work, I mean, there's a balloon strategy where you pay more interest in the end. I mean, look at what we did in Costa Rica. But the owner was completely fine with that. And for us, it obviously per him. It doesn't get better than that kind of deal. So it was just a win-win. They were willing, but if they said, no, I need you to pay, X amount of interest up front, if I look at my numbers, if the deal makes sense, and I'm willing to do that. So that's how I would approach that. So it really just is deal by deal. We've done some shorter deals. But I always like to give myself some extra time as well, just in case of the unknown, unexpected. So if according to my calculations, I think I can pay them back in 2 years, I'm going to have the right clause in there. But I might ask for 5 years, right? Again, I always want to set my, we self-describe ourselves as onions a little bit, lots of layers of protection. And that's one way of protecting ourselves as well, is asking for extra time, even if I don't need it, but knowing that I'm hoping to pay them back early, which so far we've always done. Anything to add? Did I miss anything on that?
One thing too that seals the deal, Scott, as well, is if they're kind of hemming and hawing, or if they have other, I like showing the numbers. Hey, this is what your asset is doing right now. This is why I'm buying it. And then this is what I'm going to do to it. And this is where your asset is going to be. This is how I'm going to pay you back. This is going to be the new evaluation. This is going to be my refinance amount. Boom. This is how I'm going to pay you back. And then they see the numbers and like, oh, you actually have a plan. So all of what Mel said, and then again, numbers speak volumes, because then they see this is a financial decision, you have a plan, and it makes them feel comfortable, right?
No, I think you've answered this, but do you have a favorite question you'd like to ask an owner who's considering your offer?
When they're considering our offer, what do they need? Kind of like Mel had said. No, and Christopher, I'm glad you're asking that, because it's kind of from a different angle. It's every deal will be different. What do you need? Well, I need to only close next year. Let's say it's September and they're like, let's get it under contract, but anytime after January 1st, I can close. So I need this to be in another tax year, right? What do you need? They need a certain price. Okay, well, let's talk terms. I need a certain, I've had people where this tenant needs to stay or whatever. This is
Sometimes it's very personal.
yeah.
I need you to have some kind of agreement with you that you're not going to increase rent on this tenant, or you're not going to do this, or you're not going to try. Like sometimes it gets very personal because it's their godson, or you just never know. And you I never could have negotiated properly. I never could have guessed that. Oh, okay.
How could you guess that, right?
That's important to them. But of course, as humans, we make, emotionally it wasn't just a business transaction for him. It was also an emotional one. And finding out that was part of the transaction, I personally would have ever thought that. But of course, that was a reality in the one case, for example. So, working with them to make sure that they felt secure and that I would respect his wishes as part of the deal as well.
Chris asks, what are the red flags for a bad owner finance deal?
So I can think of two. One where my heebie-jeebies or my spidey senses went off. There was one where the guy was uber pushy, and it was like, hey, why are you overly pushing this on us? And it was things just didn't add up, and it was just how do I say it? My vibes went off on that one. And I forget what happened to it, but it was too pushy, too quick. Everything had to be now. And didn't know due diligence. And I was like, whoa, like, I have to do my due diligence. Like, I just can't, even though you're offering me seller financing, it's great, but I don't want to just buy any asset with seller financing. The other one as well was I knew it was in the downtown core, and I knew I had to do certain environmental, or that they were going to be asking for phase 1. And I knew it was automatically going to kick it to phase 2 because of the location. And this was one where he was very hesitant, and I said, well, I have to, like, I know you're holding a first mortgage. It was a $1.2 million deal. He was going to hold $1 million first mortgage, but he wanted $200K so that on closing he'd pay off some stuff, pay some different things. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I understand. He didn't want to get paid off for 5 years, no matter what. And I was like, that's cool. But then at the end of the 5 years, I'm going to be left holding the bag if this is an environmental mess. I have to do I'm going to want phase 1 for sure. And I know they're going to kick it to phase 2. Well, let's figure it out. But he was adamant about not doing it. And eventually we ended up doing it, and it came up to be a dirty building. And it was just that, if I had thank goodness I followed my spidey senses, or we followed our spidey senses, but it was just that he was so adamant, even if I was going to pay anyway. So just things like that, Chris, where again, your intuition and your gut, just follow it. Just because it's seller financing, just make sure, and I'm not saying you are, Chris, but just anyone, just make sure, just because they're willing to hold a mortgage, treat it the exact same way you would any single deal, and don't make exceptions. So that's been the red flags for us, to be honest with you. Is that icky? Too good to be true here.
Yeah, if your gut's starting to, again, just listen to your gut when you're starting to go a little bit too. I mean, we've walked away, and don't be afraid to walk away from the deal. And it might be that, but I've already told 20 people that I'm buying this property. So what? Suck it up, buttercup, and know that.
And we're not saying you, Chris. We're saying in
no,
general.
not
so.
you. I'm saying whoever.
Chris is like, this is the last time I ask
I'm
questions.
never asking them a question. They're all over the place. But don't be afraid. Yeah. We've walked away from a lot of deals, and sometimes I was like, oh gosh, I thought I was going to close on that one, and I didn't. But I'm glad I didn't, and it was a learning curve, and I'm glad I didn't do it, just so that way I didn't have to go, oh yeah, that one didn't work out the way I wanted to. Because sometimes you will find out certain things, and it's your pride. Maybe you told your family members or your friends or on social media, and that's okay to know that, hey, I walk away. And sometimes, why'd you walk away? We've walked away from, there's just something, and I don't even know fully, and I don't do that often, but I've never regretted when we
comes out in the
those
wash
times.
years
And then down the
like,
road, it's like,
thank
oh my
goodness.
gosh, there was some structure, or there was, you find out something about the property, and you go, that's why I didn't buy it.
Spidey senses, right?
Spidey senses, listen to them. They're there for a reason.
The ones that work out, like Chris was asking about what you use to rent your property in Costa Rica. He's saying, short-term Airbnb.
Yeah, correct. We do the Airbnb and Verbo.
Yeah.
In the was it high season, low season? Sometimes in the low seasons we'll take someone for a little bit longer term, but not actually tenants. Always in those ones anyway. They're basically short-term rentals.
And there's great companies as well that you can work with, and all that kind of stuff that can help depending, I mean, we bought some new builds, we bought some underperforming properties there as well, where the one we saw, it's like, okay, all right, it needs a little bit of love, which are exactly what I often like buying, and not because it was a perfect location, it's beautiful, but it needs a little bit, it needs some new furniture, it needs a little bit of more lights, right? Just bring the place to life. So even if you're not located in certain areas as well, once you know the right kind of people, there are people, of course, that's what they do, and they decorate and they send you pictures from, we're doing this from our home or our office, where we're able to analyze the same way that you would with anything else as you invest. Even if you're investing in a city that's an hour or two away from you, or 5 hours away from you, it's the same kind of thing. You don't have to be on location to do it, especially now more than ever. You can do this anywhere.
Great. Justin, now in these meetings, I mean, you mentioned this in your presentation, there's different levels of real estate investor. And so Justin obviously is somebody that's getting started in real estate. He's wondering if there's any books that you might recommend. I'm sure he's not the only one that maybe got lost along the way. And, outside of Rich Dad and your book, any other recommendations?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm very, very big, as you guys know, on mindset. I would even start with something like that, because once you unleash that part of it, if you're looking for, I mean, there's some international books and all that kind of stuff. I think often books is great, but I feel that it's only gonna, it's gonna, I love audiobooks mostly is usually what I listen to. Otherwise I fall asleep. Dave, which book would you say for real estate?
For particular real estate stuff, I'm trying to think the ones that have really helped me. What should I pour down was the mindset one. I'm trying to think one that actually really breaks down. I know you mentioned.
There was a Canadian real estate one that it was one of my first books that I bought about real estate, to understand the basic of it. I think that's what it's called, Canadian real estate, something like that.
Is that the tax
Honestly,
one?
Yeah. So that one was a good basic one.
I don't remember the name off the top of my head, Justin, to be honest with you.
Honestly, follow us on YouTube. If you, and I don't know if you're just a reader, but if not, Investor Mel and Dave on YouTube. Our whole channel is, we're Canadians. The majority of our students, we analyze deals and all that kind of stuff. So if you want, follow us there. If you're looking for an international book, the guy from Bigger Pockets, the co-host, has a great international book, investing cross-border, I think, or cross-international or something like that. Sorry, I can't remember the name of it. I have it in my phone, but I'd have to look it up. That one was.
Oh, Don Campbell. A lot of us know.
Yeah.
Don. All right. So Ben is, I guess, when the deals were all 5 or more units, is this a strategy for commercial use only, or do you make it work on 4 units or less? Does it change any of the details?
No, we do it for everything. So a good point. I never noticed that.
Yeah,
I thought I was showing a diversification between the 5 and
That's
the 17,
true, yeah.
but yeah, good point. They were all 5 and over. No, I mean, we did it with our lake house, with our cottage, for example. So we were able to use the same exact strategies. We've done it with condos. The majority of the first ones we bought were all duplex and triplexes.
Yes. And even in the 119 unit slide, there was one on 3rd Avenue that was a 4-plex as well.
So we bought a 50-plex that year, and we bought a 4-plex that year. So honestly, it works
with everything, Ben.
And don't be. And I know some people will say only do this size, and that's their strategy, then awesome. Again, it's real estate and it's a numbers game. If I can make a whole lot of money and this happens to be a 4-plex or a 20-plex, I'll jump on it if it makes sense. So I don't only look at the big ones. I like some of the smaller ones where I made the best profit as well.
Ben, we quit our full-time jobs on duplexes and triplexes, okay, to be honest with you. And then that 17-plex that we showed, we have duplexes that make $800 to $1,000. When that 17-plex, when we bought it, it made $500. And we thought, okay, I can have 2 units making me $1,000, or I can have 17 making me $5. Which one makes more sense? But again, it was the bigger picture down the road. Now it makes a lot more than
Yeah,
that.
it was
but,
the appreciation we knew,
but it's not the amount of units. Like, just look at the actual deal itself, the cash flow, the lift potential, the performance, all of that. But yes, 100% you can do it with 4 units and under as well.
And it's also the timing. So at that point where we were in our real estate investing journey, although it wasn't cash flowing a lot for 17 plex, that was fine. We were able to make sense of it because we had a sustainable portfolio. But again, depending where you're at, this is where everybody's different. If you're starting off, maybe those smaller ones do make sense until you get to a different stage. But again, we still look at everything.
Perfect. Shrihari asks, how do you find the seller financing properties?
Honestly, ask. Don't.
I know it sounds simple, but
have conversation, have your realtors have a conversation with them. We've sold some properties throughout the years, and sometimes I was like, I'm not willing to hold financing for those ones. And all of a sudden they'll just ask, and maybe let's explore it. And I'll just change my mind. And I've decided to hold financing places where I thought, so just, and same with me. And you will get some no's, absolutely. And just don't think that you're not asking for anything illegal here. You're not asking for anything negative. The worst they're going to say is, I'm not interested. No, I need my money. I'm traveling. I'm out. I want out. Not a problem. That's awesome. Just thought, hey, if ever you know somebody by chance in the future, keep me in mind, type of thing. And sometimes they'll say no. And you fast forward, this happens a lot. Fast forward a couple of years, and all of a sudden now they're in a different situation and they're willing to hold financing. We've had that happen as well. So just because you get a no today doesn't mean it's going to be a no forever. And again, just know, for the reasons that we explained throughout the presentation, that they do it because it benefits them. So when they do say yes, it's because again, they understand their own benefits. Not everyone will want to do it though.
Now, someone wondering whether CMHC loans on all of them.
On all our properties, no. Out of all the properties we have, we only have 4 that are with CMHC through the A lender. Other people will be, I think that's the only ones with A lenders off the top of my head. Other ones will be credit unions, B lenders, things like that. No, there's other ones with A lenders as well. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of the portfolio. But no, they're not all CMHC. CMHC is, and again, CMHC, as much as I liked it, there's also drawbacks to it as well, right? There was a lot of hoops to jump through. They qualify you as well as the buyer. There's personal net worth. I think it's like a quarter, 25% of what you're buying. You have to have in personal. Anyway, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through for CMHC as well. There's a lot of upfront fees. Sometimes you can't get out of the loan. You can have a 5-year loan that you can't break, depending on where they're at. Like, I'm not saying CMHC is the end all be all. It does have very attractive interest rates. Mm-hmm. Things are changing now. So I do like the fact that we have 4 buildings with CMHC, but you definitely have to weigh the pros and cons. Do you want to go CMHC or not? Again, it's not for everyone. Not every asset will qualify. Some of our commercial buildings don't qualify. They like residential. So anyway, we do have CMHC, but please don't think that's the only way you have to go, or that's a must.
All right. Andrew, I see you got your hands up. Do you want to unmute and ask a question?
Yeah, thanks. So I guess a piece of advice that I'd heard a while ago was to not buy anything with less than 3 bedrooms. I was wondering, is there a problem with using it, like trying to invest in real estate with less than 3 bedrooms?
I've never heard of that hard and fast rule, to be honest with you, Andrew. I'm just thinking off the top of my head, like, I'm trying to think where that would apply. And what I mean by that is, and this is my take on it, I might be completely out to left field as to what you're asking here, or to what that rule was. Honestly, I just like looking apples to apples. So for example, if I'm looking at, I don't know, if I'm looking at an Airbnb place and I'm looking at renting it, typically the more bedrooms will go for higher, right? Or if you're looking at, let's take a duplex. Let's say I have apples to apples, okay? Let's say I have a duplex here. Both units have 1-bedroom units, and this duplex has 2 units that are 3-bedroom units. Well, the 2 that have 3-bedroom units, I'm going to get higher rents for those 3-bedroom units as I would for the 1-bedroom units. And why does that matter? Well, it's going to be higher cash flow, probably, but the purchase price might be higher. So it's all relative. But even on the appraisal, if it's residential, so kind of an answer on, I think that was Ben's earlier, the residential. So if you're considering apples to apples and they're looking at duplexes and they're looking at comps, you might be able to justify, well, look, this one is all 1 bedrooms. This one is all 3 bedrooms. I should get higher because I get higher rents. Hopefully that makes sense, Andrew, but I don't have a hard and fast rule of everything has to be 3 bedrooms or up. That's kind of the only time that the bedrooms come into play for me, is when I'm looking at things like that. Is, if I'm looking at 2 assets side by side, the more bedrooms, the higher the rent, the more I'm going to cash flow, hopefully, if after doing due diligence. Does that make sense, Andrew, or am I just rambling here? Hopefully that kind of answers what you, that's kind of how I look at it. But I can't think of a hard and fast rule on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that does. Yeah, I guess I'll keep that in mind. I appreciate it.
Hopefully that helped.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thanks for asking the question, Andrew.
That probably goes to kind of more of the the retail sales of real estate, where a 2-bedroom condo can often sell a little easier than a 1-bedroom.
Okay, makes sense.
But yeah, if it's for investment, then I mean it's a deal case by case, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any questions? I think I've used all the ones up in the chat. If you want to unmute and ask a question, feel free. I know somebody had a question about your coaching program, and I don't know if it's best for them to call in, or if you want to elaborate on it more. And
Yeah, I'd probably suggest to book a call. There's a site where you can book a call, www.IamReadyToInvest.com. So IamReadyToInvest.com. And then it will be able to step you through it. Essentially, you'll get all the videos and documents that you'll need to do this creative financing, our matrix and promissory notes and all of that. You'll get access to Dave and I, where we answer questions every day inside a Facebook group. And then Dave does a weekly live session as well, where he answers questions for over an hour, and he doesn't miss a session. Even in Costa Rica, he's like, oh, it's action family time. I'm going in a room here. So kids and I are swimming, but they will.
It's just a non-negotiable. It's part of my life now, right? Yeah. It's every week.
Yeah.
Love it.
So anyhow, so if you're interested, go ahead and let them know that you were part of tonight as well, because you'll get if you do join, you'll get a $1,000 value bonus as well. So
beautiful. Awesome. Well, it looks like everybody's tapped out. A lot of information, a lot of fantastic information. One thing that I've thought about in the past, but really kind of sunk in more today, was just the fact that people's tax implications can kind of sometimes steer the conversation and help in the process.
Well, that teacher that held the VTB on the first deal, and like I said, the fact that he was selling 2 in the same year, he wanted 100% owner finance the second one, right? The other guy that was 5 years, he was retiring in 5 years. So then when he got that money, it was going to be the year after he retires, his income was going down. But these are all, someone had asked why, or the questions you asked. These are all things, again, I'm not saying you have to be an accountant, but all of their financial situations came into play when it was time to structure the deal. So yeah, I know, I 100% agree with you. It has a bigger play behind the seller financing than you'd think. I agree with you.
And I'll put a link here as well in case some of you want some more information. It's going to bring you to 3secretstrategies.com. It's 3 mini videos that we did. They're very short to the point. They're about, I think, 20 minutes in total that you can see. So 3secretstrategies.com if you want to go there. And then you'll get our newsletters as well. We send three letters a week of information and strategies, and you'll get to know even more. And then this, you'll kind of see it's like a puzzle. It's all going to come together. So you're welcome, and it's free to join. So if you want to go, I put the link here in the chat, 3secretstrategies.com. Feel free to do so as well.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time, guys. I know you guys are good, and I think you guys are out east, so it's nice and late for you guys, hey?
I know it's
11 p.m.
Past his
I go to bed at like 8:30 usually, so I might not even make sense anymore. But it's just
And this is one of the beauties of that come out of Zoom is, in our we up until COVID we do these live at a hotel in Edmonton, and you never have some of the guests that we've had over the last 2 years, you guys included, where we couldn't quite fly you in for an evening. And
well, I appreciate you reaching out. This was a lot of fun, and everyone here, thank you so much for your questions as well. Thank you so much.
And if ever you do something live again, hey, give us a reason to go out west.
We won't,
So
we're not
where do
traveling, so
where
let
do you
us
find
know.
your deals?
Awesome.
we got a question on the
Where do you typically find your deals?
We do a combination. So I'm big on numbers and quantity to find the best one, right? If I'm looking at bats, if I'm looking at 20 deals a week and my neighbor's only looking at 3 deals a week, statistically, who's going to win? And I want to win. So I look at lots of deals. So I definitely work with investor focused agents. So find somebody who understands real estate and all of that. So work with an investor focused agent, and also don't be afraid to find off market deals as well. There are tons of deals everywhere as well. So we love just finding off market deals. And that's really how we grew our portfolio, was using a combination of both.
And once you know how to find them, you can find them on realtor.ca, right out in the open for anyone to find them, right? So
beautiful.